Well, it's been a while since I posted any progress on the Stag conversion to a manual. Progress has been made, but things have gotten in the way, and the Stag is now temporarily out of the barn and sitting in the front yard. I had to work on some other family cars, brakes, oil changes, things like that. The holidays got in the way. I had to wait for some parts or some things that I'll talk about, and I got lazy. But soon, in the next week or two, I'll be pulling it back into the barn and working on it again. Well, I started putting it back together. The flywheel housing installed no problem. The flywheel also installed no problem. That's when I realized that I forgot to take the pilot bushing out of the old engine. So the engine from the donor car had to get off the engine stand and back on the ground to try and get the bushing out. I would have liked to get a new bushing, but there wasn't any available in the States that I could find, and trying to get one imported in these days of tariffs and all is a real pain in the butt. So I was kind of forced to try and get it out. Now, there are a lot of videos about getting pilot bushings out using, stuffing bread into the bushing or grease, and then shoving a rod in there and banging on it until the bushing comes out. My expectations weren't high, but I tried the grease with a cutoff pin from a trailer hitch, and it really worked. It popped the bushing right out. So now the bushing's in, and it's time to put the clutch in, and that's the disc and pressure plate. I tried to do the alignment by eye because the alignment tool is the same problem as the bushing. I can't get one in the States, at least not on first look. Thank goodness I've got a transmission jack, because this old guy working alone tried to fit the transmission in several times and each time failed. So I had to come up with some kind of alignment tool. First, I tried what worked for some people and picked a couple of sockets that seemed to fit. They were a little sloppy, so I went ahead and put tape around them to try and make it better. Still didn't work. I guess some people are just more skilled than I am at things like that. This turned into a delay because I figured I really needed an alignment tool. I finally found a new old stock one in California and waited for it to arrive, and it worked. It's a lousy video, but you can see the transmission is seated up against the flywheel housing, and there's no better feeling in the world when that transmission makes that last inch and a half move in. Transmission bolts and all, no problem at all, and then it got to be time for the starter, and I have a gripe. The starter went in no problem, and the bottom bolt went in no problem, but getting the top bolt in is too tight an area for my hands to fit, and even with some wrenches, you just can't get them on there. Part of me thinks that I should have installed the starter on the flywheel housing and then installed that as a unit. Now, something's been on my mind about what to do with the donor car after I get most of the parts out that I need. I'd kind of like to keep things like the differential because I think mine leaks, but if I do that, it's no longer even a rolling chassis to have it hauled away. Then I found on Facebook, a Facebook Stag group, somebody was selling a Stag and said it used to have a matching trailer. So I looked up the pictures. I think it looks cool. I may never do it, but it gives me a reason to keep the white one as lawn art until I get all the parts I want off and pretend like I'm going to make a trailer. For those who watched an earlier episode where I had a torque converter bleed all over the floor of the shop, I did it again. I was doing a simple oil change on a relative's car and didn't realize that my oil drain tank filter was clogged and all of the oil overflowed, and went everywhere. Well, it's all cleaned up again. The floor is nice and clean. I'm really good at this stuff. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. If it was boring, I apologize, but see you next time.